This is actually a night vision rifle scope.
Mike Green,
but you can use it as a viewer.
Is about to go hunting.
As you can see, it's got a whopper of a lens on it.
After a career spent exposing hoaxes.
And that's just recording heat.
Green is trying to prove that this one...
You gotta love gadgets in this business.
...isn't.
I testify in court as an expert on forgery. Video out right here. For 20 years, I was chief of a fraud investigation unit for the state of New Jersey. Leave some food out, and hopefully they're watching us right now. It's home sweet home.
He took us to the Uwharrie National Forest.
Everything interesting has happened right here.
Where he says
okay, we're off.
He's seen Sasquatch before.
You okay back there?
He was out here about 1.5 years ago.
And in the middle of the night, I was awakened by what I call Darth Vader breaths. Great, I mean, that's really what it sounded like. Great big, two big breaths right over my head. In this here, in the food container.
He showed us what he then did.
This is a game cam.
To try to get video of it.
Put it right here. And you take this and do that. We hope that he's going to take this lid off and go, oops, and we're going to get a full face shot of him. I've been trying to capture this on film for a year.
Green did get a shot.
I had seen one almost exactly a year before down there.
That night, 18 months ago.
Is that white? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's its head. What you're seeing here is really the first comprehensive thermal image of a Sasquatch. And it's the best that's been taken in 40 years. Even though I admit that's blurry.
Green put a candy bar on a stump that night to attract the Squatch.
You're going to see his right arm reach up and take the candy bar right about now. There it goes. You see a big white 7.5, 8 foot tall thing come out of the woods and grab the candy bar and leave and then come back and sway back and forth a little bit. It can't be anything else. I mean, it literally can't be anything else.
Not that he hasn't heard all the possibilities
all the time
from the skeptics.
Well, it's just a guy in a fat suit or a ghillie suit. The heat signature, which is what you're looking at here, is nothing but heat. The heat signature would be completely different. It would be splotchy. You'd see lines where things like the face and the hands were hotter. You could put a guy in a Bigfoot costume and fool night vision because that's just like a video camera. But if you put a thermal imager on him, it's going to look completely different.
Green believes that the clear heat signature that you see on this thermal image
swinging back and forth
is something you couldn't fake.
On this swing, you're going to see his right arm will separate right there from his body a little bit.
And has him convinced it's Bigfoot.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now we're recording that image.
But even he and the rest of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization,
and I just walk up like this,
are baffled that they don't have better proof after all these years.
We have in the BFRO maybe 200 game cams out looking for Squatches. Haven't gotten one lousy picture of a Sasquatch, which doesn't make any sense unless you think that maybe these things are so smart that they either see the game cam, and some of these game cams are very well hidden, or they can hear or sense electromagnetic radiation like some other animals can.
Until that day when someone finally gets that money shot.
There's the tent right there.
You'll have to believe this lifelong fraud investigator
put this face down
that the Sasquatch is no fraud, and what he saw that night
let that sit there all night long
was the real thing.
Absolutely, unequivocally, no doubt what it was to me anyway.
Bob Buckley, Fox 8 News.
last April 28th, I had a thermal set up, and I was experimenting, putting it in the back of my Toyota Highlander, way with the seats folded down, the back gate open, and shoving it right up against the back of the passenger seat, pointing out. Thermal imagers make a slight whirring noise, very slight, but it looks like a piece of machinery, it looks like a camcorder, but it makes this little noise. And I thought, well, maybe if I stick it in the car, it'll disguise it enough, and it'll be back in there enough so you won't see it. As I was setting it up, 11:30 at night, I heard down in the little draw where I'd seen this one before, I heard a rustling in the leaves. Something was moving around. Nothing to be, normally I wouldn't have got, so what, it's a squirrel or a rat, I mean, nothing big. But since this is what I was doing there, I thought, maybe he's down there now, and I should either hurry up and set this up. And then I won't call it a brainstorm, but I just had this idea. Maybe if I just leave the camera and go away, he won't be quite so gun-shy. And I had a tripod, so I put the thermal on a tripod, pointed it down there, and then I made a rather well, I guess I'll go for a little ride, and got my, not, but literally, and or virtually, got in the car and drove away. Drove a quarter of a mile away and stayed for a couple of hours, which is about the length of the battery on the thermal anyway. Came back, the Zagnut bar that was on the stump was gone, and the battery was dead. So I didn't review the tape until the next morning when I got home. And there it was. Half an hour after I left, this thing comes creeping, and you guys have seen this, so I won't re-describe the whole thing, but he comes creeping out of the woods and sort of low crawls up behind the stump, reaches up, grabs the candy bar, low crawls back, disappears into the woods, and then he seems to gain some confidence because he comes back into the frame standing up from right to left, and you can see him from mid-calf up. It's hard to tell there. Unfortunately, where this is taken, the land drops away from the viewer, so it appears to be flat, but it's not. And when he comes on the frame, he's downhill enough so that, to varying degrees, the lower part of his body is completely hidden. In this case, when he comes back, you can see him from probably mid-calf up. He stands behind the trees and he sways back and forth. I've gone back there. I'm 6'5", and I went back there, took off just wearing shorts, and sort of did a thermal recreation of him being, but it was me. Obviously, I'm a whole lot thinner. I'm thin anyway, but the thermal doesn't hide anything, and I'm a skinny guy. And this thing is, I mean, he's chunky. I estimated he was about between 7 and 7.5 feet tall. I don't know how much he weighed, but it's a lot. I mean, this is a big sucker, beefy guy. And as soon as I got home and realized what I had, I called up my lawyer, and I called up the copyright office. I went online, I copyrighted it, then I flew to Wisconsin, showed it to Matt, then I took it out to the Bob Gimlin Roundup and showed it to 250 Bigfoot guys, and Bob Gimlin, who has taken nothing but crap, well, almost nothing but crap for 40 years for being the part of the Patterson-Gimlin footage, came up to me afterwards, literally with tears in his eyes, and said, "Thank you so much. Thank you for finally doing this." And he felt like somebody had, this is, if I say so myself, in 40 years, this is the most persuasive footage that anybody has come up with because it's thermal. And the difference is, I don't know how you would fake a thermal. You can easily put somebody in a suit, especially if they're in the distance or it's through night vision and everything's kind of moving and happening fast. But you can't, I don't know how you would fake a thermal. And it isn't the clearest, and it isn't the best, but it's not so bad. And anyway, I stand behind it, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm excited, and I hope, I go back there now. I go back there once a week at least, and I do the same thing, but I leave out candy and peanut butter and squeaky thermal toys and apples and bananas. And I have 2 thermals going now and a camera with the 950 LEDs, which don't give off any red glow, so it's completely invisible theoretically to everybody. And so I have 2 camera systems running all night long. One of them has motion detection, so I don't have to watch this tape endlessly to see if anything happened. And the other thermal won't, it's the one with the 2-hour battery. I just take that and do my walking around at night by myself with, but it won't run all night. And that's my story. The van's equipped with 4 cameras, 1 on each side. Each one has night vision that's good up to 65 feet. These cameras can run for 24 hours and they're recorded on a DVR inside the van. The DVR has a motion sensing program on it, so they only start recording when they see something move. Unfortunately, that includes leaves waving in the wood, in the wind, so you get a lot of false hits. Anyway, this van is going to be parked here now overnight and just let to run all by itself. This is the area where the infamous or famous squeaky thermal that I shot in 2007 down at that stump was made, and you can see that on the sasquatchforsale.com website, or you can buy my book on Amazon called Sasquatch for Sale. This area has long been a Bigfoot haven, whatever you want to call it. There's supposedly a group of 3, mom, dad, and a kid. I've only seen one big one, and it was male. I say male because I couldn't see any breasts. This campground during the winter is deserted. I live about 30 miles from here. I spend 1 night a week down here, and I have for the past 4 years trying to recapture and get more video. I haven't been successful. I've heard all kinds of screams and yells, wood knocks. One thing bumps in the night, but I have not seen one. Other guys have found, a state trooper actually found a couple of good big footprints in the mud about 200 yards from here a couple of weeks ago. And the state trooper will be coming back tomorrow, and we're going to talk to him some more.